Okay, so what we've got here is a Norinco or Chinese, no, I guess that's not Norinco at the time because Norinco didn't exist, but a Chinese SKS. It is a 1963. It is advertised as unfired, unissued. So yeah, it's pretty cool. In Canada here, we've had shipments of these roll through, and you know, I don't know if it was just a forgotten crate or multiple crates, and they've decided to send them over to us. But we're lucky enough to get these still, and decided to pick one up. So I've taken a look through it, and it is, in fact, there's no signs of being fired, no piston impacts or carbon to be found anywhere. It was packed in cosmoline, and it looked like it sat there for quite a long time. So we're gonna take a look here side by side with a 1979 French tickler. So that's the light colored stock above. There's a 79 tickler. What I'll point out here is some variations in the lug sizes. So the 63 has a long lug, and the French tickler up above has a short lug. You'll also see that there's lightning cuts on the 63, and the 79 has none. The 79 has a Bakelite handguard, and this one has a wooden handguard. All right, so let's take a look at the bottom, and we're gonna look at the trigger guards. So the 63 has a milled trigger guard, and the tickler has a stamped trigger guard, okay? And then obviously there's a blade bayonet on the 1963 versus the spiker bayonet on the French tickler up above there. One of the other main differences here that I'm showing on the other side is where the swivel for the sling is. On the 63, here it's down on the side, and for the French tickler, the newer variants, they've repositioned it to the bottom of the stock. And so what we're gonna do is more or less just strip this down. I find that the tolerances here on the 63 is a little looser than the 79. I find that the Chinese have made things even tighter and more difficult to take apart. So what I'm showing you here is you'll see that there's no piston strikes on the bolt carrier group to indicate any sort of firing before, nor is there any carbon to be found or any brass or anything that would suggest that the extractor's been used either. So kind of cool to see that. It's literally been in a time capsule since 1963. And so we're just gonna look at some serial numbers here. Everything is matching on this. So the bolt carrier stock, everything matches across the board. I'll show that as we go here as well. So you'll see some of the milling it's a little more rough in the 63. I find the milling, like I said, things get tighter, things get a little bit more tidy in the French tickler variants, the newer variants. So I'm failing here. You're supposed to put the safety down like that, and then punch, it pops up, and that trigger group comes out, which allows you to then remove the magazine. So this is all blued as well. Certainly no carbon or anything to be found. The sears on these triggers suck. They are negative set, and so they're long and squishy, and I find the Russian triggers quite a bit better than the Chinese ones. Now that being said, you can lighten it up getting an M-Carbo spring, which I probably recommend anybody looking at. I think it's 15 to 20 bucks. And you see in Canada here we have a pin in the magazine to restrict us to 5 rounds in the magazine. Outer frame, all I'm doing now is just pulling the stock off, which is pretty straightforward. And you can see there's quite a bit of oil there from my last cleaning. But otherwise, I find the wood on this harder than the French tickler, the newer variant. It's not as hard as Russian wood, the birch, but I don't know what this is, but it's kind of like a medium hardness. And what we're trying to show you here, or what I'm trying to show you, is the electro pencil to denote that the serial numbers match up, which they do indeed. Anyways, there's also a cleaning kit in the bottom there, just like every other SKS. realized you can't see what I'm doing. So there's like a takedown lever here that allows us to take the piston off, the upper handguard and piston. I find these are tighter on the Chinese across the board. I do have to pry it up, and I got to be careful using two hands just so you don't scrape the bluing off, but also don't puncture any of the wood. There we go, pops right out. And you see electro penciled serial number on it, matching up. And then we should be able to see the same serial number pop up on the, yes, on the piston as well. So if you push all the way up, it's under tension, so you get the other piston. This is the one that actually strikes the bolt carrier to push things back to cycle the next round. You see the blade bayonet, it has to be in this position to end up getting out your cleaning rod, which I just took out. You can pop it up just like that. Pretty straightforward. Has to be down to put the cleaning rod back in. Now on this one, when you reattach the stock, you can leave the bayonet down like this, and I find it actually helpful to kind of wedge it in, which you'll see me do here. I don't recommend this if you have the spike bayonet. It's just too far to actually try to wedge it underneath. The bayonet does have tension, so it will hold it in place. And what you're trying to do is actually wedge the front end first. You'll see it slide under and it kind of sits in, which allows you to move the rest of the receiver into place. And then the next thing you want to do is magazine and trigger group. Now the magazine is a little sticky. It is tough. It doesn't go down. Like I said, the tolerances on this are tight. You'll feel it physically move down about at least a half of an inch and sit into place. And you can feel it's pretty tight once it gets in there. I'm struggling there. There we go. So the other hard part is the trigger group. So you got two pins that go underneath the magazine and clip in. You'll see me absolutely fail here. It did not go in, and I ended up punching it into place and I realized, crap, I didn't do it right. So I gotta push it back out, and you'll see right here, you have to wedge underneath. There we go. And then give it a good little slap down. See, there we go. I remembered to put this in first. It has to go all the way up. So it's interesting. There's a little, I should probably show you guys, but there's a little tiny, I'll fight with it here for a bit, but you have to push it pretty far in, but also have the lever at the right point to let it through, and then move it just a bit and it will catch it. So if you press it in, I think I'll do it here. I'll press it in and there, and now I can move the lever and it'll grab it, which will let me now put the piston and upper handguard back into place. And that should just slide right down and in. I'll just usually just push it forward and down and it will pop right into place. There we go. And then all the way back down. So for when you put the bolt and the bolt carrier back in, you usually want to have the mag released. Some people like to put it in upside down so it slides and seats properly or easily. It's not necessary, but as long as the mag's open, it should just slide right in without issue. Spring, make sure the coil end goes first, the coily end or the squiggly end goes first, whatever you want to call it, and the more straight end goes back to the receiver cover. And so when you put the receiver cover on, you do want to have, see my thumbs kind of pushing forward and giving a bit of pressure to allow me to put that pin and detent, put a pin and the detent back into place. And so we're just doing a function check. Magazine, so it doesn't fire out of breech, fires in breech. Reset, there we go, easy peasy. There we have it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Any questions? You can drop them down below. Thanks.